The vet froze. Her hands trembled as she stared at the delivery table. The German Shepherd lay still, exhausted, surrounded by what looked like dozens of newborn pups, but something wasn't right. They were too many, too small, too identical. One of them let out a strange sound. Not a whimper, but something else. The vet's face turned pale. Moments ago, this was a routine emergency birth. Now the entire clinic was on edge. No one could explain what was happening, or why the dog's body temperature was dropping fast. The nurse whispered, "Doctor, what are those?" The vet took a step back, speechless. Outside, the owner paced in panic, unaware that what his dog had just given birth to would soon make headlines around the world. What the vet discovered next would leave everyone in that room, and you, absolutely speechless. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The clock on the wall had just struck midnight when Dr. Harris's phone buzzed violently on her desk. She rubbed her eyes, half asleep after a 14-hour shift, but the trembling voice on the other end jolted her wide awake. "Please, doctor, she's not moving, my dog. She's pregnant and something's wrong." Dr. Harris sat upright instantly. "Stay calm. How far along is she?" 8 weeks, the caller stammered. But her breathing's strange. And her stomach. It's moving too much. Within minutes, Dr. Harris was out the door, the rain hammering against her windshield as she sped through the empty streets toward her clinic. She'd handled countless emergencies, but something about that call gnawed at her, an unease she couldn't shake. By the time the car's headlights cut across the clinic's entrance, a man was already waiting outside, soaked and desperate. He clutched a blanket-wrapped German Shepherd in his arms. The dog's chest rose and fell rapidly, her eyes glazed but conscious, trembling with each shallow breath. "Please," the man gasped. "She's been in labor for hours." Dr. Harris guided him inside quickly, her instincts taking over. The moment the dog was laid on the metal examination table, her belly convulsed in a way the vet had never seen. Dozens of movements pressed against the skin, rippling unnaturally, as if too many lives were struggling inside one body. "Easy, girl," Dr. Harris whispered, sliding on her gloves. The monitor beeped wildly, her heart rate unstable, temperature soaring. "We have to act now." She ordered the assistant to prepare the oxygen line, but even as she did, her mind raced. No pregnancy had ever presented like this. The ultrasound flickered to life, casting strange shadows on the screen. For a moment, Dr. Harris's breath caught. There were far too many shapes, tiny heartbeats blinking in chaotic unison. Her pulse quickened. Something was terribly wrong. And deep down she knew this was no ordinary birth. This night was only the beginning of something she would never forget. The clinic lights flickered weakly as Dr. Harris pushed open the glass doors, her soaked coat clinging to her shoulders. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant and rain. The man stumbled in behind her, clutching the trembling German Shepherd as if she were his child. "Please," he whispered, "save her." Dr. Harris motioned to the examination table, her voice steady despite the pulse pounding in her throat. "Lay her here, carefully." The dog's whimpers echoed through the sterile room, a haunting sound that made even the humming machine seem to pause. Her belly rose and fell unnaturally fast, every movement rippling like waves beneath her fur. Dr. Harris gently placed her stethoscope on the swollen abdomen. Her brow furrowed. There were too many heartbeats. Not just a large litter, something beyond that. "She's carrying, I don't even know how many," she murmured under her breath. The man, drenched and shaking, tried to explain between gasps. She was fine this morning. Then suddenly she wouldn't eat, just lay there panting hard. "I didn't know what to do." Dr. Harris nodded, focusing on the monitors. The numbers flashed red, dangerously high heart rate, erratic contractions, oxygen levels dropping. She turned to her assistant, who had just arrived in scrubs, eyes wide at the sight. "Get the surgical tools ready. We may need to intervene if this escalates." The man stepped back, his hands trembling. "Will she be okay?" Dr. Harris hesitated for the first time that night. "I'll do everything I can," she said softly. As the machines beeped and the rain lashed against the windows, a strange tension filled the room. The dog's breathing grew shallower, her muscles twitching under the strain. Then suddenly, she let out a deep, guttural moan that sent a chill down everyone's spine. Dr. Harris exchanged a glance with her assistant. "This isn't normal," she whispered. Her voice barely carried over the storm outside. She had seen difficult births before, but nothing like this. Something inside that dog was fighting to come out, and it wasn't going to wait much longer. Dr. Harris moved swiftly, her every motion fueled by instinct and experience. The rain drummed harder against the windows, echoing the frantic rhythm of the dog's breathing. "Let's start the sedation," she ordered calmly, though her pulse betrayed her nerves. The assistant adjusted the IV line while the monitor continued its relentless beeping. The German Shepherd's eyes darted weakly toward Dr. Harris, trusting, fearful, and tired, all at once. "You're okay, girl," the vet murmured, brushing a trembling hand over her fur. "Just hold on a little longer." She'd delivered dozens of litters before, difficult, messy, miraculous. But this one felt different. Something in the air carried an unease that clung to her like static. The first contractions came hard and fast. The dog's body tensed, muscles rippling under the harsh white light. Dr. Harris steadied her hands. "All right, we're close now," she said, forcing her voice to stay calm. The man stood frozen near the wall, eyes wide, knuckles white around the edge of a chair. A small cry broke through the tension, a puppy, tiny and weak, slipping into Dr. Harris's gloved hands. Relief flickered in her chest. She gently wiped the newborn clean, waiting for the next one. But the relief didn't last. The monitor spiked again, heart rate climbing beyond safety. "Something's wrong," whispered the assistant, glancing at the screen. Dr. Harris adjusted the oxygen tube and peered at the mother's belly. More movement, violent, almost unnatural. "We're not done," she muttered. "She's still contracting." Another puppy emerged, then another. And another. Each smaller than the last, yet alive, each breathing in frantic, shallow bursts. Dr. Harris counted silently, her stomach knotting with every one she placed on the towel beside the table. 8, 10, 12. Her hands began to tremble. The mother's body strained beyond reason, her whimpers soft but filled with pain. "She can't handle this many," the vet murmured under her breath. The man's voice cracked from behind her. "Is she going to die?" Dr. Harris didn't answer. She simply kept working, heart pounding. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as more tiny lives entered the world. It should have been a moment of wonder, yet all she could feel was dread. Something about this birth defied nature itself. The room fell still when the first puppy slid into Dr. Harris's hands. For a split second she exhaled in relief. Life, fragile but real. But as she wiped away the birth fluid with a towel, her expression shifted from calm to confusion. The puppy wasn't moving like a normal newborn. Its skin was pale gray, almost translucent beneath the light, and its breathing came in shallow, uneven gasps. Dr. Harris frowned and held it closer. "That's odd," she murmured. Its heartbeat was rapid but faint, as if struggling to find rhythm. The small body twitched, then stilled again. "Come on, little one," she whispered, rubbing it gently to stimulate warmth. After a moment, the puppy let out a faint, high-pitched cry, thin but alive. Relief flooded the room. The owner pressed a hand to his chest, whispering a shaky, "Thank God." But Dr. Harris's eyes stayed fixed on the tiny creature. Something wasn't right. Its paws were unusually long, nails sharper than they should be. And around its neck, faint symmetrical markings like tiny rings. She exchanged a glance with her assistant, who looked equally unsettled. "It's unique," the assistant said, forcing a nervous smile. Before Dr. Harris could respond, the mother dog convulsed again, a deep groan escaping her throat. The monitor's alarm blared, flashing red. Another contraction hit, harder than before. Dr. Harris placed the first puppy into a soft towel and braced herself for the next. The second one arrived quickly, slick and trembling. This time Dr. Harris's hands froze mid-motion. It looked identical to the first. Same size, same strange gray hue, same markings circling the neck like faint tattoos. The assistant whispered, "Doctor, what's happening?" Dr. Harris didn't answer. Her gaze drifted between the two puppies, identical down to the tiniest detail. Her stomach tightened with unease. "This," she whispered almost to herself, "isn't normal." The owner stared at the scene in disbelief, his voice trembling. "Are they okay?" Dr. Harris hesitated, her throat dry. "They're alive," she said softly. "But I don't know what they are." The air inside the clinic grew thick with tension. The steady rhythm of the rain outside was drowned by the relentless beeping of monitors and the sound of shallow, trembling breaths. Dr. Harris wiped sweat from her forehead as another contraction tore through the exhausted German shepherd. "Here we go again," she whispered, readying her hands. Another puppy emerged, then another. The assistant moved quickly, lining the newborns on the warming pad. But soon the small metal tray overflowed with movement. "Doctor, we're running out of space," the assistant said, panic rising in her voice. Dr. Harris looked up, her eyes darting between the mother and the growing line of tiny, identical pups. "Keep them warm," she ordered. "Don't let their body temperature drop." The count climbed fast, 8, 10, 12. It was unnatural. A normal litter might be 5 or 6, rarely more than 10. Yet the mother kept pushing, her breathing ragged, body trembling violently. "She can't keep this up," Dr. Harris muttered. The owner's face had turned ghostly pale. "She's never been bred before," he said shakily. This can't be right." Dr. Harris didn't respond. She couldn't tear her eyes away from the impossible sight. Every puppy that came out looked eerily similar. Same size, same grayish skin, same faint markings. They twitched in sync, their tiny paws flexing at almost the same time, like a silent rhythm connecting them all. Her assistant's hands shook as she placed another on the towel. 17, she whispered. "That's 17, Doctor." Dr. Harris swallowed hard. "She's still contracting." The mother dog let out a long, low whine that echoed through the room, her eyes glazed but filled with pain. Dr. Harris placed a steadying hand on her head. "You're doing so well," she said softly, voice cracking. "Just a little more." Finally, the contractions began to slow. The vet leaned back, her gloves slick with sweat and birth fluid, her heart pounding. Around her lay 19 newborns, all breathing, all alive, and all nearly identical. The room fell silent except for the faint squeaks of the puppies. Dr. Harris exhaled slowly, her mind reeling. "This isn't biology," she whispered under her breath. "It's something else entirely." For a moment, silence wrapped the room. The fluorescent light above flickered faintly as Dr. Harris stared at the 19 tiny forms lined neatly on the warming pad. Their faint whimpers echoed like whispers in an empty church. Each one identical. Same markings. Same pattern of faint gray rings around their necks. Her breath hitched. "Get me a closer light," she said quietly. Her assistant hurried over, shining the beam directly over the newborns. What Dr. Harris saw made her blood run cold. The markings weren't random pigmentation. They were perfect, symmetrical, almost deliberate. Tiny etched lines formed faint shapes like numbers or codes. "Doctor?" the assistant whispered, voice trembling. "What are those?" Dr. Harris leaned closer, her pulse hammering in her ears. "They look like serial imprints," she muttered. She gently rubbed one pup's neck, thinking the markings might fade, but they didn't. Instead, the tiny skin seemed to shimmer faintly under the bright light. The owner stepped closer, confusion etched on his face. "What are you saying?" Dr. Harris turned toward him slowly, her face drained of color. "I don't know what these are," she said softly. "But these puppies, they weren't born naturally." Her words hung in the air like a storm about to break. The assistant covered her mouth, eyes wide. "You mean genetic experiments?" Dr. Harris didn't answer. Her gaze fell on the mother dog, now weak and barely conscious. The poor creature's breathing was shallow, her strength fading with every second. Dr. Harris placed a gentle hand on her head. "You've done enough, girl. Rest now." As she looked back at the row of identical newborns, a chill crept up her spine. They lay unnaturally still, eyes closed as if waiting for something unseen. The room felt colder now. The steady hum of the machine seemed to slow, replaced by a suffocating silence. Dr. Harris whispered to herself, "What have we just brought into this world?" The man's face had turned ghostly white. His hands trembled as he stared at the newborns, the strange markings reflecting faintly under the clinic lights. "This can't be happening," he murmured, backing away. "They were supposed to be normal." Dr. Harris's head snapped toward him. "What do you mean, supposed to be? You told me she was a rescue." The man swallowed hard, his voice cracking. "She was. But there's more I didn't tell you." The vet's expression hardened. "Start talking, now." The man sank into the nearest chair, his soaked jacket dripping onto the floor. 2 months ago, I found her outside an abandoned warehouse near the industrial zone. She was injured, hungry, terrified. I couldn't just leave her there, Dr. Harris frowned. Go on. He ran a shaking hand through his hair. A week later, I went back to the same area, just to see if there were more strays. But the place was crawling with police and animal control. They said the building belonged to a shut-down research facility. Something about illegal breeding and genetic testing. The words hit Dr. Harris like ice. You're saying this dog came from there? He nodded slowly, guilt etched across his face. I didn't know for sure. I swear she looked so scared. When I brought her home, she started gaining weight so fast I thought I was feeding her too much. Then, she got pregnant. But I never saw another dog near her. Dr. Harris exchanged a tense glance with her assistant. You're telling me she was never bred naturally? The man shook his head. No, never. The vet turned back to the table, her eyes dark with realization. Then whatever's inside her, it didn't come from nature. A heavy silence followed, broken only by the soft cries of the puppies. The man buried his face in his hands, whispering, I didn't mean for this to happen. Dr. Harris stared at the newborns, their tiny bodies twitching in synchronized motion, their faint gray rings pulsing gently like living circuits. She felt a chill trace her spine. They're not just born, she said quietly. They were made. The clinic felt unnaturally silent, the kind of silence that presses against the walls and makes every breath sound too loud. Dr. Harris stood frozen, her eyes fixed on the warming pad where the 19 puppies lay huddled together. They moved in eerie synchronization, tiny chests rising and falling at the exact same rhythm, small limbs twitching in unison, like they were controlled by a single unseen pulse. She approached slowly, curiosity mixing with fear. Bring me the scanner, she said to her assistant, her tone steady but her hands trembling. The assistant fetched a handheld microchip detector, standard procedure for rescues just to be sure. When Dr. Harris waved it over the first puppy, the device beeped immediately. A microchip. She frowned and tried another. Beep, then another. Beep, beep, beep. All 19 puppies. Her stomach tightened. Every single one, she whispered. They're all tagged. The assistant's eyes widened. But they're newborns, doctor. They couldn't have been implanted yet. Dr. Harris didn't answer right away. She leaned in closer, watching as one of the puppies stretched its paw toward the light. Its tiny claws unusually long, its movements too coordinated for its age. Then she saw it. Faint metallic glints beneath the thin skin on its leg like something unnatural fused into its bone. Her chest went cold. These weren't born, she said under her breath. They were engineered. The man stepped back, horrified. Engineered? What do you mean? Dr. Harris finally looked up, her face pale, voice shaking. These puppies carry technology inside them. Tracking chips, maybe more. Someone created them for a purpose, and it wasn't love or companionship. The lights flickered again. Outside, thunder rolled across the dark sky. Dr. Harris felt her heart pound as she realized what this meant. Someone, somewhere, had created life. Not to nurture it, but to use it. The shrill ring of the clinic's phone shattered the tense silence. Dr. Harris snatched it up instinctively, her voice low. Riverside Animal Clinic. A stern voice replied. This is Officer Lane from Animal Control. We received an anonymous report about an illegal litter. Are you in possession of a German Shepherd that just gave birth? Dr. Harris's pulse quickened. Yes, but how? We're already on our way. The officer cut in. Do not move the animals. Within minutes, flashing red and blue lights flooded the rain-soaked parking lot. The owner froze by the window, color draining from his face. Oh no, they found me. Dr. Harris turned sharply. What do you mean, found you? You didn't do anything wrong, did you? He shook his head weakly. No, but whoever made her, they'll want them back. The clinic door burst open as two uniformed officers entered, followed by a woman in a dark gray jacket, the lead investigator. Her eyes scanned the room like a hawk. Dr. Harris? Yes, the vet said, trying to stay composed. I need you to step aside. We've been tracking this case for months. The officers circled the examination table, their flashlights reflecting off the stainless steel. When one of them leaned over the newborns, he froze. Ma'am, these markings. They matched the reports. Dr. Harris's stomach turned. Reports of what? The investigator pulled out a folder and flipped it open. Project Canine Genesis, she said grimly. A military-grade experiment in hybrid canine intelligence. The facility was raided, but some subjects escaped, including this mother. The owner sank into a chair, whispering, "I didn't know. I just wanted to help her." Dr. Harris stood speechless, the truth unraveling faster than she could process. The investigator's tone softened slightly. "You may have just uncovered the last living evidence of that operation." As more officers secured the area, one whispered under his breath, staring at the synchronized pups, "God help us. What did they make these dogs for?" The flashing lights outside the clinic painted streaks of red and blue across the cold walls. Inside, chaos gave way to a heavy, fearful quiet. The officers had stopped talking. Even the puppies had grown still, their tiny breaths soft and synchronized like clockwork. But Dr. Harris's eyes weren't on them. They were on the mother. The German Shepherd lay trembling on the table, her chest rising weakly. Each breath came with effort, her once bright eyes now glassy and distant. "She's fading," Dr. Harris murmured, pressing her stethoscope against the dog's rib cage. The heartbeat was faint, irregular, slipping away. The owner stepped forward, voice breaking. "Please do something. She saved them. She can't die now." Dr. Harris quickly adjusted the IV line, trying to stabilize her vitals. "Stay with me, girl," she whispered, her tone tender but desperate. "You've come too far." Her assistant handed her a syringe of fluids. But even as she administered it, the monitor beeped weakly, the rhythm uneven, fading. The officers exchanged uneasy looks, unsure whether to interfere. The investigator stepped closer. "Is she going to make it?" Dr. Harris didn't answer immediately. She placed a trembling hand on the mother's head. The dog's eyes flickered open for just a moment, her gaze drifting toward the cluster of tiny pups lying nearby. Her tail moved just once in a faint wag of instinct, of love. "She's trying," Dr. Harris whispered. "Even now she's trying to protect them." A lump formed in her throat as the German Shepherd let out a weak, low whine, the sound of a mother calling to her young one last time. The smallest puppy lifted its head, squeaking softly as if answering. Dr. Harris blinked back tears. "You've done enough," she said softly. "They're safe now, rest." The monitor gave a long, steady tone. The line flattened. The owner sank to his knees, his sob echoing through the sterile room. Even Rex, the clinic's guard dog in the next room, began to howl mournfully, sensing the loss. Dr. Harris removed her gloves slowly, her hands trembling. "She gave everything," she whispered, even her last breath, to bring them into this world. The air in the clinic was thick with grief and disbelief. The mother's still form lay on the table, her warmth gone, yet the room held an uneasy quiet. Dr. Harris's hands hovered over the 19 puppies, counting, checking each one carefully. Miraculously, all of them were alive. Each one drew shallow, synchronized breaths, tiny bodies trembling but pulsing with life. The owner bent close, his voice breaking. "All of them survived?" Dr. Harris nodded slowly, her voice soft. "Against all odds?" Yes, she could hardly believe it herself. These weren't ordinary puppies. Genetically engineered, marked, and now orphaned almost immediately. Each one's survival was a testament to resilience she hadn't thought possible. The assistant adjusted the heating lamp, ensuring the tiny forms remained warm. "They're so fragile," she murmured, glancing nervously at Dr. Harris. "I've never seen anything like this. How are they even alive?" Dr. Harris shook her head. "I don't know. Nature alone couldn't explain it. Some kind of adaptation." Her eyes flicked toward the smallest of the litter. One pup, weaker than the others, lifted its head and blinked at her. It seemed almost aware, as if assessing its surroundings with intelligence far beyond its size. The owner reached out tentatively. "She would have wanted them to live," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. Dr. Harris's gaze softened. "Yes, and they will. But we need to keep a close watch. Their condition is delicate. Any shift could be critical." For the first time since the birth, the room felt a flicker of hope. The puppies twitched in unison as if sensing the change in energy. Even the smallest pup managed a tiny whimper, a breath of life against overwhelming odds. Dr. Harris sat back for a moment, her gloved hands clasped together. She realized the truth. These tiny, engineered beings had survived not because of the mother alone, but because of something extraordinary inside them. Something no human hand could fully understand. The clinic lights hummed softly, and for the first time that night a calm settled over the room. Against every expectation, life had endured. The lab results arrived the next morning, slipping into Dr. Harris's hands like a weight she couldn't shake. She unfolded the printed sheets carefully, her eyes scanning line after line of data. Her pulse quickened with each sentence. These weren't normal puppies. The numbers, the DNA sequences, the patterns, it was all there in black and white. Hybrid, she whispered under her breath. Genetically modified. Engineered for... what exactly? Her assistant peered over her shoulder, eyes wide. Doctor, these results are impossible. They're part dog, part something else. Dr. Harris's jaw tightened. They have enhanced intelligence markers. Rapid growth indicators. Neural development accelerated. Someone created them to think, to adapt, to perform beyond natural capability. She paused, feeling a chill creep down her spine. The investigator arrived just as Dr. Harris was explaining the findings. She took one look at the sheets and paled. This matches everything we've documented from Project K9 Genesis. These puppies, they're living prototypes. The facility didn't just experiment, they engineered tools. Sentient tools? The owner staggered back, disbelief written across his face. Tools, my God. They're alive. Dr. Harris nodded. Alive, yes, but not normal. Their physical and cognitive abilities far exceed what any dog could naturally do. They were designed to survive extreme conditions, to obey commands, to think independently. One of the assistants glanced nervously at the pups, now clustered together under a heat lamp. They're so small, she murmured, but they move like they know what's happening around them. Dr. Harris exhaled slowly, the weight of reality pressing down. That smallest one, the one we thought might not survive, look at its neural scans. Its awareness level is off the charts. If it grows, it could surpass all expectations for intelligence in canines. The investigator's voice dropped to a whisper. These puppies aren't just engineered, they're groundbreaking. Dangerous, maybe, but groundbreaking. The room fell silent, the gravity of the discovery pressing in. Outside, the rain continued to lash against the clinic windows. Dr. Harris stared at the 19 tiny gray-skinned lives, her mind racing. Somehow they had survived, but the question remained. What was the true purpose behind their creation, and who had the right to decide their fate? Dr. Harris sat alone in the quiet of the clinic, her hands clasped tightly around a warm mug of tea. The room felt smaller somehow, the hum of the machines and the faint whimpers of the puppies pressing against her chest like a weight. She stared at the row of 19 tiny lives under the heat lamp, each one twitching in perfect, unnatural unison. The owner had left temporarily to make calls, leaving Dr. Harris alone with the responsibility she hadn't anticipated. She rubbed her temples, trying to focus. Ethically, legally, morally, every angle screamed at her. The authorities wanted the puppies. Animal control insisted they were evidence, and yet looking at them, she felt an undeniable bond forming even with creatures she barely understood. They're alive, she whispered softly, tracing a finger through the steam rising from the tea. But they're not ordinary. They've been made to survive, to think, to be something more. The smallest pup lifted its head and blinked, gazing at her with eyes that seemed almost human in their intelligence. Dr. Harris froze, a shiver running down her spine. It shouldn't have been aware, not like that. Yet it was, studying her, responding emotionally to her presence. Her assistant peeked around the door. Doctor, they're asking when you can release them. The authorities will come back any minute. Dr. Harris shook her head. I can't just hand them over. Not like this. Her mind raced through worst-case scenarios. If she surrendered the puppies, they could be used in experiments, trained for purposes no one should control. But if she tried to hide them, she'd be defying the law, risking her career, her license, even her freedom. The puppies whined softly, curling together for warmth. Dr. Harris's heart ached. I can't abandon them, she murmured. I won't. Her hand shook slightly as she made a decision. She would protect them for now. The world outside didn't understand what had been created in secrecy, and maybe, just maybe, she could find a way to give these tiny, engineered lives a chance to grow beyond the shadows of their origins. The morning sun filtered weakly through the rain-streaked windows, casting a pale light across the clinic. The 19 puppies huddled together, tiny bodies pressing for warmth, their faint gray markings shimmering in the glow. Dr. Harris leaned closer, carefully observing the smallest one. Something about it made her pause, a spark of awareness that set it apart from the others. It twitched its paw deliberately, reaching toward her hand as if recognizing her presence. She froze, heart pounding. The little creature's eyes flickered open, scanning the room with intelligence that should not exist in a newborn. Her assistant gasped softly. "Doctor, it's aware." Dr. Harris swallowed hard, kneeling beside the heating pad. "Yes," she whispered, voice trembling. "More aware than any newborn should be. Look at it respond. It knows I'm here." The smallest pup squeaked softly, then lifted its head higher, tilting it as though listening to every sound. Its tiny ears twitched toward Dr. Harris's voice. She extended a finger slowly, and for a moment, the pup's tiny paw rested on it, delicate but firm. A surge of emotion hit the vet. Against all odds, this one had survived, but not only that. It was demonstrating awareness, connection, intelligence beyond expectation. The other puppies whined, sensing movement and attention, but the smallest pup seemed almost to communicate silently, a bond forming in that brief, miraculous gesture. The owner returned, eyes wide. Is it really doing that?" he asked, disbelief evident. Dr. Harris nodded, tears forming in her eyes. "It's not just surviving, it's thriving. Despite everything, despite its size and condition, it's showing something extraordinary. It's aware. It's learning." The investigator peeked in, noticing the tiny display of recognition. "I've never seen anything like this," she murmured. "This changes everything." Dr. Harris looked down at the pup, feeling a connection she hadn't expected to form so quickly. Against a backdrop of engineered genes, danger, and uncertainty, one tiny creature had defied the odds. It had not only survived the night, it had awakened to the world, recognizing her, understanding in its own way that it had a chance to live. The room, once tense and fearful, held a fragile sense of hope. A single heartbeat of promise in the midst of chaos. Dr. Harris whispered, "We'll keep you safe, I swear." News traveled faster than Dr. Harris could have imagined. By the afternoon, journalists were circling the clinic, cameras flashing, phones buzzing with calls and messages. Social media exploded with speculation. A miraculous litter, genetically engineered puppies, a vet who had uncovered the impossible. The story went viral before she could even explain it. Dr. Harris sat in the corner of the clinic, exhausted but alert, watching the puppies curl together under the heat lamp. Their synchronized breathing and tiny movements were mesmerizing, almost hypnotic. The smallest pup lifted its head and blinked at her again, and she smiled faintly. Against all odds, they were alive, and they had captured the attention of the world. The investigator arrived once more, clipboard in hand, a serious expression softening as she watched the scene. "These puppies, they're unprecedented," she said. "This discovery will change everything, from genetic research to animal care, even the way we think about sentience." The owner stood beside her, overwhelmed. "I never meant for this to happen," he whispered. "I just wanted to save her, and now, look at them." Dr. Harris reached out, letting the smallest pup curl against her palm. "They survived, and they're learning already. But the responsibility isn't just mine. It's everyone's who understands what they are and what they could become." Outside the clinic, the media frenzy grew. Photos of the puppies' faint gray markings circulated online, sparking awe, fear, and curiosity. Scientists weighed in, ethicists debated, and millions of viewers shared and commented, eager to witness the unfolding miracle. Each post carried the same sentiment. These were not ordinary puppies. They were a symbol of resilience, intelligence, and mystery. Despite the chaos, Dr. Harris felt a quiet resolve. The tiny lives in front of her deserved a chance to grow, to thrive outside the shadows of secrecy and experimentation. Whoever had engineered them had left a mark, but she would ensure their future was guided by compassion, not control. Late that evening, she placed the smallest pup on her shoulder. It nuzzled against her gently, its warmth a quiet reassurance. The world had learned their story, but here in the clinic the puppies were safe. Dr. Harris whispered softly, a vow to both the tiny creatures and herself. "We'll face whatever comes, together." The faint whimpers of the 19 tiny beings echoed through the clinic, a testament to survival, hope, and the extraordinary bond between life and those who protect it.